Street Fighter 6, I owe you an apology. I wasn't familiar with your game. And to be completely fair to myself, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I want to play a 40-year-old game today. These things typically aren't like classic cars. This isn't a 1967 Charger, and if it was, maintenance would be a nightmare. I should have learned this lesson from Zenless long ago. Old does not mean bad. Piper is one of the A-rank launch agents, and she's still consistently one of the strongest free-to-play units in the game. She's the oldest human on the roster, and it shows. Her attacks are slow and clunky, she's hard to control, and she lingers on the field for way too long. But that's all okay. She puts out crazy damage! To put this in perspective, Street Fighter launched in 1987. That means that Street Fighter is closer in time to the separate but equal era than it is to us in 2026. Let that sink in. And that's what I realized, that having a full fleshed out tutorial and an established endgame isn't a young man's game. Because I saw a Street Fighter had it, I expected 2XKO to do the exact same thing. But that's just not the case. Street Fighters had decades to build all this out, and to expect 2XKO to have the same level of polish as Street Fighter was ridiculous. My bad. 2XKO is made by Riot, and Riot has tons of experience with ranked, and 2XKO doesn't do anything weird in the Riot world. They use the same system as Valorant or League of Legends, which is a ranked system where you can go up and down constantly. So Street Fighter is the system that's more robust, where there's a master rank, and once you hit the master rank, you don't go backwards. You're basically playing the endgame at that point. And I thought that was the standard. I don't think it is, though. I mean, rank systems are pretty common nowadays, and 2XKO doesn't do anything weird. It's just that Street Fighter does way more than anybody would expect. And I'm just learning about these now. But Street Fighter and Zenless have some really strong connections. I did not expect this. Ellen Jo is Zenless Zone Zero's most popular character, and for good reason. Her design is inspired. So if somebody came to you and said, shark person, you wouldn't immediately think of a shark fused to a person. You'd think of more of a half shark, half person kind of situation. But that's not what Ellen Jo does at all. She's literally a person with a shark attached to her. And that's fine. It's a fantasy game. They do whatever they want. But it's got that little bit of surprise there, right? Because it's not exactly what you would expect when you think of a situation like that. And that's its charm. And that's where Zenless and Street Fighter start to converge in a beautiful way. So when Ellen Jo got her awakening, she got new moves. And just for context, before her awakening, Ellen Jo's moveset made sense. She moved like a really athletic person that also had a really strong muscular tail attached to her. So she used it as a counterbalance. She used it to hit people. It made sense, right? Like if you had access to a really strong prehensile tail, what would you do with it? And that's what Ellen does with it. Except after her awakening, she got access to some moves that didn't really make sense. They were hard to explain. So if you've got a person with a muscular tail, why would they be able to fly in a boomerang shape in the air? It just didn't make a lot of sense. And Blanca can move in some really weird ways as well. Okay, so first off, his somersault kinda makes sense. He's a really strong guy. He just starts doing flips and he hits you, right? So E Honda can do something similar, right? Where he's really strong, he jumps and hits you with his head. So that's kind of okay. It's not, outside the realm of imagination. Except nobody explains why Blanca can slide so far and so fast on the ground. Like, why exactly does that even make sense? He's not like a slippery eel or anything, or maybe that is it. But the thing is, Street Fighter doesn't really explain any of this, and that's half the fun. And on the 2XKO side, we have Ari, who is a fox person. And that's totally fine, but exactly what you would expect when you hear fox person. It is a person with fox ears and fox tails, which is not a huge surprise, but that's fine. 2XKO has their own fantasy world with their own fantasy rules, and they do what they want. So no judgment here, except there's not really a surprise. If you heard fox person and you saw Ari, you would think, oh yes, that's a fox person. And then we have the curious case of Blanca in Street Fighter. So with Blanca, they don't bother putting him in a group. Ellen's a Shark Thyran. So in New Eridu, there's a group of Shark Thyrans that look like Ellen and have Ellen-like attributes. With Blanca, they don't even bother adding him to a group. He's just something from the jungle. His skin color isn't really explained well, and it's not clear exactly why he can generate electricity. He just does, right? And that's fair. Street Fighter is a fantasy game. They make up their own rules. But in terms of just surprise, they don't even bother trying to explain what's going on with Blanca. And this is where Ari's different. Even though she's a fox person, she doesn't have any special fox person rules. Sure, she's got tails, but if you wanted to have somebody motion capture for her, I don't think that person would have to do anything special. You can kind of just do all of Ari's moves as a human being. So where she does have tails, and the tails do come out and do fun things, and she can hit people with them, they don't seem to follow the same rules like Ellen or Blanca. And that's where Zenless and Street Fighter really converge. So even in the real world, we don't fully understand the animal kingdom. So sometimes animals do things that surprise us. And it's not that they can't do them, it's just we don't know why they're doing them. In the same way, we've got Ellen and we've got Blanca flying around doing things, and they're obviously doing them. But there's no reason that makes sense for us as to how they're doing them. And that's kind of magical, right? You've got these sort of wild creatures doing their things and living their best lives, and that's kind of magical. Also, Street Fighter does some things that are amazing. I think the word here is quality of life. So 2XKO has a training mode, and it was my first game, so I didn't know what I should expect from this place or what would be useful. So coming from 2XKO and going to Street Fighter was just eye-opening. Like, there were options that I didn't even know existed, that I didn't even know I needed, and that are super useful. The training mode, everything, the way they do it, it's like a master craftsman came in and gave you access to his workshop or something like that. It's crazy how useful some of these things are, and all I can think of now is, why doesn't 2XKO have this stuff? So this was a surprise. Street Fighter has an option to turn everybody's name off. And to be fair, I didn't think this would help at all. I mean, why would it matter that you can't see anybody's names? Except it does. Like, if I'm trying to lock in and I don't have to see silly names and funny names and things, which isn't a bad thing, right? Like, sometimes you see a funny name and that's entertaining. But that's the thing. You're trying to lock in. You're not trying to laugh and have fun. That is a distraction. I didn't think it would help. It absolutely does help. And yeah, I was playing 2XKO. Yeah, every once in a while you run into a duo with a funny name that matches. And it's kind of distracting, right? It's not the end of the world, but at the same time, if you're trying to lock in, it's easier to lock in if you don't have things trying to make you laugh. I like to think that if I had access to a time machine and I wasn't illiterate, going from 2XKO to Street Fighter would be like traveling back in time to the Library of Athens. Imagine if you went back in time and you walked into that big building with all those books and all those knowledges that you can eat with your eyeballs. And then it would be like a feast for your brain with your reading eyeballs. Yeah, that's how it works, right? I don't know. I am seeing parallels between my time in Zenless and fighting games. So I think the big thing is that in Zenless, if you're doing endgame, it's about 3 to 5 minutes that you've got to lock in where you're facing the boss. And sure, if it's easy content, you can goof around and not really pay attention. But at the same time, if you're going for a high score and it's difficult or it's at your level, you really have to lock in. And you've got to make sure that you make all your timing checks. You've got to remember the patterns. You've got to make sure your spacing is good. And that all kind of matches what happens in a fighting game. It's just in the fighting game, you're playing against like a real person, right? So yeah, Zenless does kind of prepare you for fighting games. I mean, it's not exactly the same because things don't really change in Zenless. But at the same time, if this were just a gentle tutorial, it would make sense. Street Fighter's ranked mode does feel like a tutorial. I think what I've seen online is that the ranked mode essentially just pushes you slowly towards a higher rank. It's essentially a tutorial, right? So this matches my experience because I'll lose a game and I'll lose 40 points. I'll win a game and I'll gain 200 points. It doesn't feel like it's skill based. It's more time based, right? And that's totally fair. It's almost like an informal tutorial. And yeah, it feels like if you just play for long enough, eventually you will go up in rank and you will reach master, which is fine. I mean, it's the same with Zenless, right? Like you don't go down in levels. Eventually you reach a level where you should be eligible to finish up Deadly Assault or CU Defense. And at that point, you'll realize very quickly if you are able to finish the end game or not, right? Then it becomes skill based and it may be a bit of a surprise to you. For anyone interested, yes, I placed into Gold 3 and then I immediately fell down to Gold 2. Not that it wasn't anything expected or anything like that. I don't know what the buttons do. I didn't know any of the matchups. And yeah, that happened. But I think that's the thing. That's when I started to notice that when I would lose 40 points. And then when I would win, I would get like 200. So, I mean, it's not like I won all my games after that. I don't even think I won 50% of my games after that. But if you get 200 for a win, it's easy to rank up. And yeah, I'm Gold 4 now. So I'm looking at this more like levels, right? Like if you're in Zenless and you're level 5, you play for an hour and you're level 6, not a surprise, right? You don't go backwards. And I think technically you can go backwards in Street Fighter. It's really difficult though, like the math doesn't allow you to go back quickly. So it makes sense, right? It's basically a tutorial and that's fine. The timing couldn't have been worse on my part. I've had Street Fighter for a few months, but I got confused and I went and played 2XKO, which is fair because I've never played a fighting game before. But yeah, Street Fighter was the one that makes more sense. And Zenless has had their 3.0 update with Rose Caliber, and there's so much content. It's pretty good. So I've got these two things competing for my attention now, which isn't a bad problem to have. And yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to make Pyrois work. Bro has so many buttons. Bro, why do you have so many buttons? I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's a good problem to have, but at the same time, Zenless and Street Fighter go together like peanut butter and jelly.